Thanks, that's all for today.
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 Thank you, that's all for today.
Thanks, that's all for today.
Thanks, that's all for today.
Thanks, that's all for today.
Hello and welcome back to Thanks, That's All for Today, a podcast hosted by me, Harriet Mullen. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Season 2. And thanks again to my wonderful, wonderful guest, the very talented Jodie Still, for joining me last week. In this week's episode, I catch up with a friend of mine who I met whilst working on one of my favourite jobs 2 years ago. Nothing happened last year, called Stardust the Musical. He's an Urdang grad, singer, actor, dancer, voiceover actor, vocal tutor, and has a great head of hair. Please welcome my next guest, Aizaac Sidhu. Hello and welcome back to this next episode of Thanks, That's All for Today, with me, your host, Harriet Mullen. And today, I'm staring at my screen and looking at a very handsome man. He's probably got the best haircut out of everyone in the UK, seeing as the hairdressers are closed. Your hair looks very, very nice, Mr. Aizaac. The lovely Aizaac Sidhu is here with us today. He has spent 3 years at Urdang Academy training in musical theatre. I have to say he's a very, very successful auditioner. I swear you're always in finals for everything. So he is somebody that I think would be fantastic at this podcast because he's got so much experience. He has performed in a variety of different shows, including playing Seth in Bollywood musical Stardust. He's also worked for a little company called Disney. Don't know if anyone's heard of Disney, for their cruise line productions such as Beauty and the Beast. Who were you in Beauty and the Beast?
Oh God, I had so many roles.
I was Beauty, I was the Beast.
I was Beauty, I was Beast, and I was the and there as well.
I used to say that Aizaac and I have got a very professional relationship. We rarely laugh, so this podcast is going to be very serious.
Very serious, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely no laughing at all, because when we work together, we never laugh, do we, Aizaac?
No, I don't think we've ever had a single in-joke, not one.
Never. We've never been in a dance rehearsal together and cried and laughed at the same time either. Never.
I was more crying than laughing.
We'll get to that later. He's also dabbled in voiceover acting, and also hit Aizaac up if you'd like some singing lessons, because he's a brilliant vocal tutor. He knows his stuff. So if you're looking for a singing teacher, even though I am, I probably shouldn't be advertising other people, but yeah, come to me first and then Aizaac. No, I'm joking. Aizaac is there for all your vocal needs. Now, Mr. Aizaac, I was looking at your CV, your curriculum vitae, and you have performed at the Leicester Square Theatre.
Yeah, that was quite a short little show. Actually, you know what's hilarious about that show? I was on stage for a grand total of about 5 minutes.
Take that credit and run.
I did. The second I got it, it was on my CV. It was on my appearing now, currently in. It was everywhere. Oh. It was on my Facebook. It was on my Twitter.
Previously, Harry Challoner in This Was a Man. Hey, are you impressed that I know that? That's how I know you. That was how you got famous, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think I remember you at stage door.
Claim to fame, the Leicester Square Theatre. No, you've got a very varied career. You don't just sort of stay in one genre. I feel like you could, like I said earlier, turn your hand to many things. So we're going to obviously talk a little bit later about your career. We're going to now talk about me, which I like to do in this podcast.
Cool.
You know, invite guests on and talk about myself. But let's talk about how we met. So I don't know if I've mentioned on this podcast before, but I was in a show called Stardust. And it is a original Bollywood musical. We were the original cast and absolutely loved working with Aizaac. We spent the first sort of week, as I've previously mentioned in the podcast, working on our characters and researching characters and also offering advice to other people on how we thought their characters might evolve. And we did some rewriting and things like that. And I could literally
not unsolicited. It was solicited.
Yeah, it was solicited. Yeah,
It was, this was a collaborative effort.
it was. It wasn't just me and Isaac giving out advice to everyone, and Isaac telling me how I should play a diva, because I obviously needed a lot of work on that character. But Isaac, I could listen to Isaac speak all day. He's just fantastic to learn from and very knowledgeable. And so we're going to do a general knowledge quiz now. No, but I actually had to be so mean to you in the show, though.
Yeah, but a lot of people did it. I got beaten up.
Oh yeah, I didn't beat you up. No, I
You didn't beat me up, so you're ahead of the curve.
And I think one of the biggest takeaways I had from working with you was how much we sort of swapped notes and spoke about auditions and the process of auditions, which I love to talk about auditions and experiences and things. Obviously, that's why I've got the podcast. But with you, I found that we had a lot of shared experiences or just similar kind of stories. So it was really nice to have those moments, even after the show, where you and I would be going up for things, or we'd have those shows. We've got that show each, not the same show. We both want to be the Mask and Phantom of the Opera. But to be honest, after hearing you playing Anther in Beauty and the Beast, I'd quite like to know what that role entails. But we both have shows. We both have those shows that we really wanted or really want and get further and further with it every time, and then it's a no. So I think that was really, really bonding for us. So obviously we've shared a lot of stories about auditions. Since you've graduated, we'll talk about drama school auditions a little bit later, but since you've graduated, have you been steadily busy with auditions, or have they sort of come along like buses and you've had none for a while and then loads at once? Like, what's your audition experience been like since you graduated?
It's been pretty steady, I think. It obviously depends on the time. There's certain times of year where there are more auditions than others. And I think you kind of just learn to kind of ebb and flow with that. But then, even on the quiet periods of time in the year, when you get an audition then, it's like, oh, wow, there's an audition suddenly. And and then you kind of get, I guess, you get used to the rhythm of the auditions and like the amount of time waiting. Obviously, the last year has been a bit of a strange one in terms of auditions. Yeah. And even when you get an audition, usually they're tapes at the moment. But I'd say it's been pretty steady. I don't think I really had like no, actually I do remember I had one year where I just couldn't seem to really get seen for anything, and I don't think that was anyone's fault. So I don't think anyone was doing anything differently. So there was a year where it was a bit quieter, I'd say, than any other year. I was still being put up just as much, going out to auditions so it just happened to be a quieter year, especially when it comes to the world of musical theatre. Year by year, it can just change in regards to how many people are in a show, how many people are leaving a show. You just don't really know. So I think it depends on the year. The more diverse of things that you put yourself up for, and the more diverse things that you kind of are able to do, that obviously also increases the amount of auditions you get as well, because you're then being put up for different projects more frequently.
Because for you, I mean, I've obviously seen you perform in a pop capacity and perform as Seth, who has got to sing this huge pop track. But obviously, knowing the sort of shows that you have been called in for and work you have done, where would you say you lie between the legit musical theatre and pop? Because I could see you in either, but do you find that you gravitate towards one, or do you think that you've had a steady flow of auditions? Can you say steady flow? Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Or do you think that you've been as busy as you've been and, frequently called in because you can go for the legit musicals and the pop?
It's a funny thing, actually, because to me, music is music. So genres obviously are important, but I don't necessarily hugely change the way I sing from one audition to the other, one genre to the other, because, my voice kind of just sits in a bit of a strange place in that it's legit, but it's also kind of pop, and it's kind of like half and half.
Yeah, you don't have two voices.
No, not at all. So, so it's basically like I'll be in for one musical and I'll maybe just like bring out more of a popish tone, I guess. And in one, I'll bring out more of a legit tone, I guess. But generally speaking, I kind of just go into each audition kind of singing the way I sing and hoping, I guess, that that's good enough. You know, certain shows require different vocal tasks. There are certain shows that may not want any, I guess, vibrato in their voice for when they're casting a character because they want it to be very raw. And, you know, you got to learn how to take those things in and out. You've got to learn how to kind of manipulate your voice here and there. But I think in general, I kind of a middle of the road, because I remember at drama school, I always used to kind of get, I used to get called like, as if like Jean Valjean does pop.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I was never able to be like, because there were some people in my class, especially who are just phenomenal pop and rock singers, and I had so much envy for them. And there was some boys in my class who were just beautiful, legit voices, and I had so much envy for them. And I always used to kind of think like, oh, I don't really fit here, I don't really fit there. But then I kind of was like, you know, if you don't have a niche, kind of make yourself your niche regardless. And so it also makes the process of auditioning more comfortable for me to not have to try and manipulate the way I approach things, at least vocally, so much. Do you know what I mean? Because I could easily say to myself, like, oh, well, they're looking for someone who is a pop and rock singer. I'm not right for this. But that's not my call to make. I'm there to do what I do. And it's the casting team who know the piece and know what they're looking for, know the sounds they're looking for. It's up to them to say, is he right or is he not? But for me, it's not really my place to say that. So I just kind of go in and do what I do. And if I'm right for them, that's great. And if I'm not, then that's fine. You know, that's just the way the cookie crumbles, I guess.
I think that's great, though, that you've got that understanding. And when you go for auditions now, how have you changed from being a graduate? Would you still now go for a variety of things, or are you more niche nowadays?
Good question. My process of auditioning has changed humongously since graduation. But I would say generally it's changed in some ways, but it's kind of stayed the same in other ways because I am the same person. But then again, I'm not. Like, I've changed as a person so much since graduation. You know, I've grown up a lot. So yeah, I think there is no right or wrong way. Whatever works for each person works for them. And in terms of, you know, what I've been seen for, that also kind of ebbs and flows. I had periods of time where I've been seen for loads of very poppy, rocky musicals, and then periods of time where I've been in for very, very legit musicals. I think just kind of finding myself, finding what I do, and kind of just trying to find the similarity between who I am and what the piece is maybe asking for, and bringing my similarities forward, as opposed to trying to diminish my differences, because you also need those differences. You don't want to be cookie cutter as soon as you walk into the audition. So bringing forth your similarities to the piece, to the character, to the role, and also celebrating your differences and bringing those to the party as well, but kind of really, I guess, finding and identifying what your similarities are is the first kind of big step.
Definitely. And with auditions now, obviously we haven't been in the room. I haven't been in the room for ages, and everything now seems to be self-tape or Zoom, and I wonder how long that will continue. I don't feel as nervous when obviously it's self-taped or on Zoom. I feel far more comfortable, but you can't beat being in that live atmosphere. There is such a difference. Do you find all the auditions as nerve-wracking, or are you like, in the room is scary, self-tape I'm more chilled about? Because I saw your post this morning about your self-tapes and you're like, I've done like 100 I've done like 100 tapes today.
No, that's a good question. It's again, I think it just depends on the audition. I think there's something kind of nice about going to an audition in person. You have like a pseudo audience in a way, and you can kind of go there, spend 20 minutes of your day doing the audition, doing the material, getting notes, doing feedback, all of that good stuff, and then you up sticks and you're out, and then you can kind of release it a little bit more, I think. But I would also say that there's an advantage to self-tape, because like I said, you can do so many takes and you can really kind of explore different versions of it and you as an audience member watching the tape back can kind of say, oh, okay, I liked that, I want to bring more of that, or oh, that doesn't read so well. But then there's also the other thing is like something that would read maybe in the room quite well may not read on camera, or vice versa. So there's so many layers to this. But I had one audition actually last year which was like a big kind of learning moment for me, where it was for a commercial. And for a lot of commercial auditions, sometimes, even when you get them in person, they'll just say, oh yeah, we just want you to do what the storyboard is of the commercial. We want you to bring that forward for the tape or for the audition. And this particular commercial storyboard was something that I could never be able to recreate in my room in a self-tape basis. It was so action-based. So I chatted to a friend about it, and we were just discussing, what can I do? Should I just kind of act out the storyboard, which would be like 5 seconds of tape, really, but also kind of impossible for me to really convey in the confines of my bedroom in London. So I was like, what do I do? And what we came up with was more of a feel of what the piece is and convey that. So I was kind of dancing around, doing things that I was not really expected to do on camera, but kind of was the essence of the character. I have this big stuffed shark in my bedroom. It's my partner's, and I was dancing around with that, singing summer hits, like kind of lip syncing to all these like things, kind of pseudo diving off the side of my screen, like singing into the shark, playing around, having all this fun on camera, none of which was in the actual audition, but all of which kind of, I guess, contributed to the feel of what they were trying to create. And I think for that particular audition, taping was a lot more, I guess, advantageous, because I had the ability to go like, what is this piece about? What do I want to show? And from there, I was able to, I guess, really bring that forward in a way. So it's different for each person. I'm not someone who necessarily gets nervous per se. Nerves when it comes to an audition doesn't differ from one to the other, because I'm not someone who generally feels nervous, unless, well, not really ever, I think. I don't know why.
You're very, very calming force. I remember you saying presence. You're very calming presence. Force. So I can imagine before an audition, actually, could you just follow me when I go to an audition? You'd be great. Just calm me down. But your advice has always been like, don't let other people make you feel like that. Like all you're doing is going into a room, singing and performing to other humans. It's not that deep. And you've got a really good way of thinking about auditions.
Yeah, because I remember there was a big turning point actually when I started thinking that way, and it was just as I was, I think it was at the beginning of third year actually, and I was in for a big musical. So I just started third year, and I was in for this big musical, and I was about to do my first round, and I was outside the door about to go in. And this is a musical. This is one of the musicals that really did change my life, really put me on the path towards doing this as a career. So, it was a big kind of life moment for me. And I was outside the room, and I was nerve-wracked in every sense of the word. I was so nervous. My knees were shaking. My breath was short. I was sweating. I felt like when you don't feel like you're in your body at all. That was the sensation I had. And I just remember thinking to myself, I was like, no, this is a big opportunity, first of all. So get yourself together. and I remember thinking, I have gone through the ringer getting to this point in my life. It's not been an easy journey. So I've gone through the ringer, and I'm not about to let some nerves interject my chance here to really make a good impression. And so I kind of thought, get yourself together. You've earned your spot here today. You've earned your right to go in there and do your work. And the casting team know that. The casting team bring you in because they believe in you. And so I just kind of thought to myself, I need to believe in myself. And it was like a switch had just been switched in my brain. I suddenly was not nervous anymore. And a few weeks later, actually, we had our auditions for our third year pieces, our graduate pieces. And for those, I literally was sitting in the waiting room, and I didn't feel a lick of nerves, because I had told myself, you deserve this and you have earned the right. Not that I deserve the part, not that I deserve to be in the show, not that I deserve any of that, because those things are not in my control. They're not for me to make that judgment about, but I deserve the right to stand in that room and deliver my performance. And that's all I'm doing at this point. So, I remember actually one of my classmates was like, I wasn't nervous, but Isaac is like not nervous at all. And that's making me a little bit nervous. And I was like, I think I just kind of put the reins on my nerves a little bit. And it's not like I wasn't excited. I was excited to do what I do, but the negativity of that had been stripped away. Because, someone told me the symptoms of nerves, the shortness of breath, the not being in your body, the butterflies in the stomach, all the same symptoms of excitement. So nerves are just excitement with a negative kind of connotation placed upon them. I was excited, but I wasn't nervous. And there is a very slight difference, but it is worlds apart from each other psychologically.
So I'm going to play a game with you now. I'd like to ask you, first of all, what's your favourite type of audition in general, in terms of if I was to do a show called Aizaac the Musical and I was a casting director, what either format of audition would you really like or what you wouldn't like?
Well, I'd say my name is in the title, so do I need to audition for this?
I know, that'd be a bit rude of me, wouldn't it? I'm going to do Aizaac Sidhu the Musical, but Isaac, you're going to have to audition.
Story of your life, but can you do 10 rounds, please?
Yeah, what would be your ideal? Because for me, I would love one-to-one auditions, 3 or 4, that would be my favourite.
So I would say one-to-one auditions, definitely. And I would say the less rounds, the better. Give it to me after one. Give it to me after one, please.
Oh my gosh. Imagine walking into a first round and going, by the way, I'm only doing 1 round. So if you like me, please let me know.
All right, let's say 2 rounds then. I don't want to sound cocky or anything.
Oh, let's be really diplomatic. And I can do 10 rounds.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah,
I love that. I love the journey. Okay.
The journey to and from the casting office.
Yeah, that's a musical in itself. Okay, So our game today is called, as it always is, Audition Types. Okay, so I'm trying to be really cool there. Really failed miserably. Let's come up with a jingle.
Very cool.
Do you know what? Many people tell me that. I think Harriet means
I'm laughing,
cool.
but I'm not joking.
Oh my gosh. I think
I've never been called. I don't think I've ever been called cool.
I think there's many things I am, but cool is not one of them.
I'm cool-headed, but I'm not cool.
Yeah, you are cool-headed. I'm not that either. I have actually been told to dress cool for auditions, which definitely tells me that I am not cool. Could you try and be cool tomorrow? Yes, I will. So
audition outfits is a whole other journey.
Yeah, that's a whole nother episode. No, we will come on to that actually a little bit later. I'm going to ask you what you'd wear to play me in my life story musical later on.
Glitter.
Okay. Glitter and pink. So audition types, musical theatre versus play.
I would say, I love them both. I would say maybe musical theatre. Yeah.
You don't sound that sure.
Because they just, it's kind of like, oh, do you like apples or oranges? I'm
allergic to apples, so I'd have to say oranges.
You'd have to say oranges. You'd have to say orange theatre.
Okay, no, I don't want to bully you into coming up with an answer. If you want to say both, that's absolutely fine. You're very diplomatic.
Well, no, I do love them both for different reasons. Musical theatre, I would say, it's kind of my preferred, because I think with play auditions, I sometimes can psych myself out, because when it comes to acting solely, I'm quite comfortable with camera auditions.
Interesting.
And when it comes to stage, I'm very comfortable with musical auditions. But the kind of the blend of the two is still something that I'm trying to learn to kind of strike the right blend. And also with plays, that blend can vary so dramatically. Some plays need a very heightened kind of blend, and some plays need a very muted blend. So plays are very complex auditions. Kudos to everyone who can do a very good play audition. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Apples.
Oh, apples. Right, so we're going for empty. Okay,
Right,
so
yeah.
that means you can never audition now for a play ever again. You put it in writing.
It's been chopped off, yeah. It's on my
Oh,
spotlight now, actually.
I know. I'm going to quote you. Dance versus singing round.
Singing, please.
Why are you laughing? I think you're a great dancer. I'm looking for someone who can dance and rock me, baby. Come on. Okay, 5, 6, 7, 8. I actually remember that.
I can actually remember little bits of it.
Mm.
I would say singing round, definitely. Dance rounds, I said I don't get nervous. Dance rounds are the exception. Dancing on stage is fine. Dancing in an audition is not. Well, I mean, it's fine, but I find it very nerve-wracking. I think it's because I'm fine with choreography if I've had some time with it, but to learn it, and the caliber of the dancers you're next to is always like sky high.
They're amazing.
Even in Stardust, we were next to Marcus, Josh, Tiana. So
Me. Sorry,
high.
you were next to me. What do you mean?
And you, of course.
Thanks, Isaac. Oh my God, sorry. Oh, I'm getting really hot because I can't stop laughing. 16 bars versus full song.
I'll say full song, but only because I cut my audition songs quite extremely. So I know it's really cheeky, but there's been several 16-bar auditions I've gone to where I just take my kind of full song as it is, because it's not 16 bars, nowhere near, but it is a very short, very brief, less than a minute song. And it has like a first verse, chorus, finish. And the finish is basically like one like little system. So I kind of say full song, but I sing very, I think my idea of fresh hell is me going into an audition being like, I've brought this song today. Material's different. Material can be very long, and that's fine. But I wouldn't ever go into an audition bringing my own song and it being like 30 pages long.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I've learned that an audition cut is crucial, except be careful where you cut it, because you don't want to be like, on my butt the tigers come at night. You don't want to do that obvious cut.
Which I did for like 2 years of my career, that very song. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, established musical. I don't remember writing this question, by the way, so let's see where this goes. Established musical versus new writing.
All these questions are so hard.
I'm sorry. I'll ask you a really easy one next.
I would say, it's so difficult because with new musicals you get new stuff. You can put your stamp on it. With Stardust as well, you get to put your stamp on a piece and go in and maybe show them something that they weren't expecting and bring that to it. But then established musicals as well, a lot of the time they're musicals that you grew up with. They have a lot of sentimental value to them. Oh gosh, I'd say established musicals. Yeah.
But you'd still go for new writing.
Basically, any audition, I want to be there.
Oh my God.
Do you need a baby for that Pampers ad? Because I'll do it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, do you dress up or do you go casual for an audition?
I have the same outfit I wear for every audition. That's a huge confession. People have clocked it as well. People are always like, you always wear the same outfit. And I do.
Can I guess it? Can I guess it?
Are you gonna? I think you're gonna guess it right. You're gonna guess it right.
Is it a white t-shirt with like
yes,
with like a greeny kind of overshirt?
Yeah, all the time. You know what's so funny is that when I was in third year at college, we had like some mock auditions and they would kind of give us some feedback on like song choice and all of that. And one of the things they give us feedback on is a presentation of your rep, presentation of yourself, what you're wearing and all that stuff. So the teacher at that point, I was not good at dressing myself. So I would wear ill-fitting shirts and, chinos that I thought were like so nice and they were terrible. And the teacher, one of my teachers would say, and she doesn't work there anymore, but she taught me since foundation year up until third year. And she would say, oh yeah, like I think a nice olive green would be a really nice color for you. And at the time I just kind of was like, olive green, I don't think so. But you know, now I wear
It
all
looks,
the
yeah, but
time.
it looks so good with your complexion. Like, it's really striking. And I think it could go for legit and it could go for pop as well. It's not like, oh, you look really street there, or you look really like you're going to a classical recital. It works for so many different things.
I like to keep as neutral as I can without going like in full college black outfits. Do you know what I mean? Like full like black joggers, black t-shirt. I don't want to do that, but I want to
have you
go as
seen what I'm
neutral as
wearing
possible.
today? I'm in my blacks today. Black t-shirt and black.
You go into a contemporary
joggers.
class after this.
I'm going to take my winged eyeliner
Yeah.
off though.
I like to be as neutral as possible. I like to make sure that unless it's something that's very elevated, like certain musicals, I like a certain musical I was taping for actually not that long ago, a couple of weeks ago. I was like in a shirt, like a button-up shirt, pressed with like fancy trousers. It's a self-tape, you can't see below like my chest, but I was in fancy trousers just to kind of get the feel of the character as well.
Definitely.
So yeah, but I try and my best to be as neutral as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if I'm being recalled for a certain role, I wear the same thing I've been wearing in previous auditions through the recall process. For better or for
Interesting.
worse.
But that's really good advice, because I think you're one of the only people who has said that they keep neutral for an audition. Not going to be taking your Technicolor Dreamcoat, are you, to the Joseph audition? That's a bit much.
I mean, I would, but it's on loan.
Love that. Okay. We talked actually a little bit about this earlier, about your favourite type of audition. But in terms of the format, do you prefer a group audition or a solo?
Solo. 100%.
Every time. You're being too diplomatic if you say group.
Oh, yeah. I love group auditions.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I understand why group auditions are there, but I, for myself, feel the most comfortable in a solo audition.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like I get to know the casting team and the creative team better that way and have a bit more of a rapport with them, get to know them as people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really important as well. So yeah, I would say definitely for me, solo audition, 100%.
Fabulous. You've passed. Let's move on.
That's the quickest answer I've given so far. I'm a rambler. You've got a lot of cutting to do.
First of all, I was supposed to ask you how you are, but I kind of did that privately because, you know, we don't need to air our dirty laundry. Not that you've got anything sordid to tell me.
So sordid.
Yeah.
So shady.
You're appearing in court next week. Yeah.
So shady. So sordid.
So shady. It's just
messy.
It's just we can't release any information either about what you've got coming up. You know.
Yeah, we've got NDAs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what got you into performing? What was it? Was it something you always wanted to do when you were younger, or did you just wake up one morning and go, actor, that is the job for me?
You know, I was thinking about this the other day and I was like, I don't think there's a clear starting point for me. It just kind of like naturally progressed in that direction. I remember when I was a kid, I was doing a school show. It wasn't anything in particular. I think it was just a school show. And my mum was there watching me. And there was actually, I remember, I think it must have been in like maybe year 2 or 3, like very young.
Oh.
And there was a tiny like fashion show like section of it. I don't know why we were doing this school show, but we were. And it was in the middle of the day.
Fashion is very important in year 2, clearly.
It is, you know. Yeah, it was the show and my mum came to see it. I remember in the ride home, like the car ride home, she said to me, she was like, why didn't you ever tell me that you really like being on stage? And I just kind of remember thinking, well, I've never been on stage before. I was like, did I really like it? And I kind of thought about it. And I was like, I did really like it. Not for anything other than the fact that I just liked it. I couldn't really put a finger on it at that point. So there was never really a clear starting point. And then my mum, because I was also a very, very, very shy child, very, very shy. And we moved around a lot when I was a kid. So I never really had like a solid circle of friends in my younger years. So I think to combat that and the fact that my mum saw that I loved being on stage and also knew that I was quite shy, she started taking me to acting lessons, some really good acting lessons actually when we moved down south to Windsor. There were these lessons in London it was a really good school, and I learned a lot, gained a lot of confidence, got a lot of self-assurance, and also started my hand in auditioning for casting directors, the likes of like Disney, the Disney Channel, all of those kind of big,
Oh, wow. From what age?
Oh gosh, I must have been at this point like maybe 10 or 11 or something like that.
Wow. I never knew that.
So I was quite young, maybe, well, actually, maybe a bit older, maybe about 13 odd. But yeah, there was a big period of time where all I did was like sit in my room, play video games. That is still me now in lockdown, pretty much. But it was always something in the back of my head. And I would do shows, school shows and stuff like that. And people would say, oh, you're good at this. You know, you're really good at this. And I would just I would get, I don't know, it kind of progressed to that point. And then my sister at one point, when I was thinking about universities, not having any clue what I was going to do, my sister kind of was like, why don't you look at drama schools? I think she said a particular drama school, in particular maybe Lambda or RADA. And she was like, why don't you look at drama schools? And I think that's when it really started to like kick off. Do you know what I mean?
That's so nice that it kind of organically grew throughout you growing up, and it's like sort of
I guess
what you've grown up doing.
You know, it's also funny because I remember before I even really kind of clocked that I wanted to be an actor, one of my favorite TV shows growing up was Charmed, and there was always like someone gets hit by this like fireball and they go flying across the room and they hit the wall. It's all dramatic, and I used to pretend that I was in Charmed all the time.
Oh my god, I love that.
I used to kind of pretend, oh, I've been hit by a fireball, and I would like fling myself onto the couch and be like, oh, I've been hit, and all of that. So I would place myself in TV shows. I would place myself in the likes of shows like Charmed and Friends and Frasier. You know, I was a kid who watched Frasier.
I loved Frasier. I used to watch it when I was getting ready for school.
Yeah, and I used to put myself in those shows in my mind, just as just as imagination. And oh, you know what? I only just realised this now. Slightly sad story, I guess. But when I was a kid, because we used to move around so much, I didn't really have a lot of friends when I was quite young. So break times, I always used to kind of walk around the playground, imagining myself as like a pop star. I would just kind of sit there and imagine that I was doing like this big concert for the whole playground. And like everyone was like cheering and screaming and yaying and all of that stuff. And so, you know, it was an odd thing because music was a huge influence to me as a kid, as well as TV. Theatre kind of came in later in like my teen years. Theatre kind of became a big influence, but TV and music were a big influence. I used to binge listen to the Spice Girls. I used to binge listen to Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, Madonna.
Amazing.
When I speak about my childhood, the sound of Madonna comes through so heavily. And even now, I can go to work and blast Madonna from the point I leave the front door to the point I get to work.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, all of these things, you know, they were emblems for me of confidence, of something beyond what I was going through at the time.
Yeah.
And also a big form of escapism when
Definitely.
life wasn't going so well. You know, there was a period in my teens when I was going through something very, very difficult in my personal life, and I would be on the road for 2 or 3 hours every weekend to and from a certain location, and I would blast musical theatre in my ears and just imagine that I was there and not there. Do you know what I mean? It was a big form of escapism. It's been a huge healing tool for me as a human being. So that's the answer to your question.
I just want to give little you a massive hug walking around the playground on your own. If I was at school with you, you would have been in one of my shows, and then you probably would have been put off theatre for life. That's amazing that you've seen theatre and art, or many, many different art forms like music and television and comedy, as an escapism. So subconsciously, it's always been with you as a positive kind of aspect of your life, which I think is amazing.
Career, doing it as a career wasn't necessarily a must have this in my life all the time, but it was always like just a little bit of magic that I had like in my life. Do you know what I mean? It was always there. It's always been present.
That's amazing. And do you still see it as a little form of escapism now, or do you like that it's part of your reality now, the arts and it being your job?
Yeah, it's odd because especially in some shows, there were shows, especially like Beauty and the Beast, you know, you're playing to a house of like 1,300 people every night. And so it was my job, but also every single night at that curtain call, I would pinch myself and I'd be like,
Yeah.
little me made it to here. Do you know what I mean? Little me made this happen. And so, it's 50-50. I still have the magic, but it's my career, and I think that's why I love it so much.
Amazing. You think you know someone and then you hear about their past and things like that, and
It's so illuminating, isn't it?
yeah, it really is. It's you really get to know somebody on a deeper level. Let's do another game. Game right now.
I feel like I'm turning all your games so deep. You're like rock, paper, scissors, and I'm like, oh yeah, sad childhood.
Love and light, you tell me. Love and light. Okay, so we're going to play a game now called Rituals. Dun, 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 dun. I could do with the millionaire music there. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Dun, 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 dun.
That has been an age since I've seen that show.
Do you know, I always want to say bank after anybody that says like a sum of money, because I think of The Weakest Link. So if anyone says around me like £200, I go bank in my head.
Oh my God, little kid me going home. I used to watch The Weakest Link every single day after school.
Brilliant. And Deal or No Deal. I used to love that when that came about.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
me too.
Excellent. I really
emotional roller coaster that is.
I used to be so invested. And then when the banker would call and he'd be like 16 grand, I'd be like, what would I do? Would I hold out for 250,000 or would I take this?
That's a year at drama school, that is.
I know. I could do with that money. Okay, so let's talk about rituals. Who do you tell before or after an audition, if anyone?
I prefer just the people who maybe out of necessity kind of need to know. Do you know what I mean? If it's a self-tape, then whoever's my reader, I'll obviously discuss it with them. Whoever I'm hoping to be my reader. And yeah, I tend not to tell people just because I'm very much like do the audition, leave, done, dusted, on to the next. Do you know what I mean? And so, if 2 months down the line, 50 people know and someone's like, oh, did you book that job? I'm like, you have me on social media. You'd know if I booked that job.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't want to be reminded of things. So I tend to, not secretive in a way, but I do tend to prefer keeping those things to myself.
Excellent. What about before and after an audition? Do you have any set rituals to do? Is there anything you have to do before or after, superstition wise?
After, I guess that can vary from audition to audition. But before, actually, I do have a ritual. I don't think I've ever really addressed this as maybe a ritual that I have, but I like to get to auditions quite early. Now, obviously, with coronavirus and everything that's going on, this is less of a likely thing that I can do. But pre-COVID, I guess, I would get to auditions very early because I just don't like to be
How
late.
early is very early?
So this is the thing. I would sometimes get to auditions an hour plus early. So I could go sit myself down in like a coffee shop at Starbucks or Costa or whatever. And I go there, I sit, I listen to calming music, and I just zen myself and focus myself in.
That's a really, really good piece of advice. What about, this is a good one. Have you got any tricks? Have you got any tricks?
Tricks? You mean like backflips or something?
I'm just interested if you do.
I barely walk in time to the music, but
vocal as well. Any sort of tricks up your sleeve?
I like to whack out the odd high note, I guess. No, I think this isn't a trick, but I guess like one thing that I make sure to bring to every single audition is being prepared to the point where it may border on like pedanticism, but I don't even know if that's a word, but it might be, and I'm going to use it. So yeah, I like to be prepared. That's it's not a trick, but I mean, it's just kind of what I like to do. I don't get nervous if I know what I'm doing. If I know what I'm doing, if I can stand true in what I'm doing, then I don't get nervous. And so I think that's kind of, I guess, a trick that I have.
Do you watch the show / do your research before you go in?
With research, I try and research the songs, the scenes, the character, everything as much as I possibly can. If I research the show, do I watch the show? Yeah, if possible, if it's new, then obviously you can't. But if I can watch the show, I'll try to. But also, I try not to judge myself against what I'm watching, because each new cast like renewal, each new people they bring to the cast, they may want to go with something the same that they've been doing before. They may want something different. Each new might be a new kind of variation of the show they're trying to try out. So I try not to judge myself against what I'm seeing, but if I can watch the show, I always will, because it's a nice night out.
Yes, definitely. What about feedback? Do you have to have feedback for every audition, or most auditions, or none?
I'm a big fan of getting feedback. I think getting feedback is a really important thing, solely as well, because I try and view every experience, good, bad, failure, or success, you need to use as like a learning experience, and that's so much easier if you've got feedback to go along with it. So I could say, like, oh, I did this audition and maybe the reason I didn't get recalled was because of this, but that may not be correct. So getting feedback is always a lovely thing to have, and to kind of reflect on. Constructive feedback, if, oh, please work on this, please work on that, this could maybe use a bit more work, love constructive feedback.
Fabulous. That is the end of the game.
Great.
Don't worry, you
Will
won.
I win?
You can be
I won a year at drama school.
a year at Harriet Mullen's drama school, where you learn to be me.
Yeah.
Don't look too excited.
A masterclass. It's a masterclass.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Insert music here. Okay, so I now want to talk about audition story times. So I just wanted to ask you, have you got any good, bad, hilarious, etc. audition stories that you wouldn't mind sharing with us today, whether from drama school or from your career so far?
So, professionally, I think all my auditions have been like pretty, I guess I want to say standard in a way, but auditioning for drama school, I think there's one particular story actually that sticks in my mind. So when I did my first year of auditioning for drama school, I auditioned for drama school 1 year and got into foundation, and then auditioned during my foundation year and then got into it 3 years. So when I was auditioning for my first year, which I was auditioning for foundation courses, and I was also auditioning for 3-year courses, the information that was available to me about drama schools from my academic school was very limited. So I didn't know much about drama schools at that point at all. And so I kind of was auditioning for anything and everything that I found via Google. And so it was a bit of a plethora of different schools that I was ending up auditioning for. So previous auditions that I had done was for things like Central, LSMT, these great schools that I just wasn't quite ready to go to. Do you know what I mean? My level was not quite the standard where if I went there and did the training there, I would kind of be ready for that. So, I'd not gone into a few schools. And at this point, when I did this next audition I'm about to talk about, I auditioned for 2 or 3 drama schools, not got into any of them. So I was starting to feel a little bit like, is this right for me? Am I good enough for this? Everyone has those moments, don't they?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I was kind of like, am I good enough for this? Am I right for this? So when I went to this audition, it was for a college that shall not be named.
Okay.
But it was a foundation course, and that's all they did. It was just a 1-year foundation course. I don't even know if this college is still in operation, but all they did at that time was just a 1-year foundation, and their entire aim was to get you ready to audition for drama schools.
Right.
So I was like, great, well, I know that I need that kind of a course, because I think this is the first time that I'd really heard about the prospect of a foundation course. So I was like, that's the kind of a course that I think I'd be good for. And so I went to the audition. I had a dance audition, which was very, very, very simple, but I at that time had never really danced before. So I did this song, and I think it went well, and they gave me like some good feedback on it. They were like, oh, you sounded good on that one. And I was like, great. So then I did the acting audition. That was what it was. And so for those of you who haven't auditioned for drama schools, you get your information not on the day, but you get it via a letter. So I left the audition day, and I was very, very happy with how the audition had gone, even though I maybe hadn't done incredibly well. I kind of thought, well, the chance of me being able to get into this school is pretty good. I was very confident about it.
Yeah.
So the next day or the day after, I was at home and I was home alone, and the letter came in the mail, and I kind of got the letter and I was holding it and I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's open this letter up. Let's see what's going on. So I opened the letter and I read the letter, and I'll never forget it. And it says, hi, so you've been unsuccessful this time round. And they kind of was like, thank you for coming and all this stuff. But because it was quite a small school, and I don't think they auditioned too many people, the letter was personalized, and it said something along the lines of, we don't professionally believe that you are correct for musical theatre. We don't believe that you have the skill set to be able to pursue this as a career. We would say that you would perhaps consider another career. So that was the letter that I got.
Wow.
As a what? I was 16, 17 years old.
But this was a course to train you to get into drama school as well. So what are they expecting to take in for their students? It's getting you ready for the industry. It's getting you ready to audition for industry training.
I got the letter and I was kind of gobsmacked to kind of get it. So I kind of was looking at this letter and, I believe that maybe they sent it over the guise that it was constructive criticism. I'm using air quotes for those listening. But, I was a 16 or 17-year-old child, and these were grown adults who were sending this to a child. And so teenager, very hopeful teenager, who you've heard on this so far, my connection to this art form and how much I love it. So it was very high stakes for me. And I remember looking at this letter and I was staring at it and I kind of didn't know how to react. I was upset, but I also kind of felt this wave of like something come over me. And I looked at the letter and I very calmly kind of walked over to the kitchen with it in my hands, and I took it to the stove and I set it on fire.
Really?
Yeah. I took it to the stove, set it on fire, and then threw it in the
Don't try that at home, by the way, anyone.
Don't do that at home, guys. And just watch the letter burn. I said to myself, to hell with what anyone thinks I should and shouldn't be doing with my life. This is my decision to make. And I want to do this. And this is what I'm going to do with my life. And if it takes me 100 years, I'm going to do it. And so that was a huge turning point for me. Because then the next audition I went to was for Urdang, which was only a couple of weeks later, and I had that fire kind of burning in my soul a little bit, and I got in. So
fantastic. So actually, what they did was motivate you and give you determination and ambition.
When you're older, you have more confidence.
But that could have stopped you.
Yeah. And I was thinking, that could have stopped me from having the most magical, incredible, 10 plus years of career and training that I've ever had, that, I could have ever possibly have asked for. My audition at Urdang, my first one for the foundation, that didn't go brilliantly. Do you know what I mean? I remember for the singing audition, I was singing entirely out of time with the pianist, but I just kept singing, and I was like, I had that fire, and I was like, no, I'm here to sing my song, and I'm going to sing my song. I sang my song, and I did it. And then in the dance audition, it was something like 8/8 or something of a dance audition. I knew maybe the first 8 and the last 8, and then all the middle 8s didn't have a clue.
No.
And I there was someone at the front marking it, but they would mark turns and mark kicks. And so I was doing the audition, marking turn and marking kicks. But I did the first 8 and the last 8. And I was like, I don't know these middle 8s, but I know this first 8. I know this last 8. I'm going to give it my everything. So I did that. And I don't know what they saw in me, but I think they saw, something. And I think ultimately that could have really stopped me. That could have derailed me. That could have been the moment where I thought, cancel the rest of my auditions. I'm never going to make it. I should get a job in IT or accounting.
Well, how many people have they done that to as well?
Yeah. How many people has that worked on? How many people got a letter similar to that and it crushed their dreams?
Credit to you that you're working in the industry that somebody told you at 16 you probably need to forget about working in. So well done to you. Okay, so we're going to play a game now. We are going to play our final game, Have You Ever? So
Okay,
I'm going to ask you a series of questions. It's not as fun as Never Have You Ever. Never Have I Ever, I mean.
For those of you who aren't watching, I've got like several shots lined up on a desk.
Yeah.
Ready to just take
do
a shot here. Then
version.
we should actually. That would be funny. No, I'm not drinking.
I'm actually not going to ask you this first one because the first one is been late / turned up on the wrong date, but you are so organised that has never happened. Oh.
No, actually, I have.
You have? Tell me more.
I have actually. It was an audition for a cruise. I can't remember what cruise line it was. I was bricking it. I was so nervous, so nervous for this audition because it was like they told me what the audition day would be. And it would be 2 dance rounds, 1 dance round cut, another dance round cut, and then they'd need me to sing a material that they had given me. But the material was just material that was so different to me than the regular material that I go into auditions with. It was like Freddie Mercury kind of rock, like not pop rock, not musical theatre rock, pure rock and roll rock, like Freddie Mercury range stuff. I have a good vocal range, but I'm not Freddie Mercury. So it was a very nerve-wracking day. It was kind of one of those days like I can prepare, but there's very little that I can do to kind of get myself through. So I got it, and my agent sent me the audition. And the audition turnaround is usually very fast.
Yes.
The exception of Stardust. I think Stardust was one of the most kind of amount of notice I ever had for an audition before in my life, because I had like 3 weeks or something since the time I knew I got it, and then the audition day itself, which was lovely and very luxurious. So yeah, I got this email from my agent, and I was like, oh my god, it's in a few days. It was in like a week or so, and so I remember the morning I woke up, got ready for this audition, and I was just like, oh, Isaac, just do your best. And it was at Pineapple, I remember. And
not nerve-wracking at all at Pineapple, is it?
Never. And I was like expecting to get there, and I was expecting there to be like a big line outside, the way that is with cruise auditions, especially, kind of, because I think this may have been a mixed agent and open call. So I don't even know what to expect, basically.
Yeah.
So I get there, and there wasn't a line, thank God. And I go inside, and I say to the man on the desk, I was like, hi, yeah, I'm here for this cruise audition. He was like, oh, let me just double check what studio that's in. And he checked on his little system, and he was like, I can't see what studio that's in. Does it say anything on your email? But yeah, I'm not sure. I think he maybe got quite early, because I'm not seeing anyone else here to audition for that cruise line. There's a few cruise lines auditioning today. There was a bunch of stuff. So I was like, oh, it's fine. I'll step outside and I'll check my email, and I'll call my agent if there's any confusion. So I went outside, checked my email. I was 1 month early to my audition.
1 month?
Yeah, it was on like the 12th of something, and I came on the 12th of the month before.
Oh no! So you got all psyched up, and there was no audition.
There was no audition that day. And then the kicker is, like 2 weeks later, I booked Beauty and the Beast, so I had to cancel that audition anyway because I couldn't do the contract. So I had all this anxiety surrounding it. And
1 month. I've never heard someone be 1 month too early. That's amazing.
I text my agent on the bus home, and I was like, I just came to my audition 1 month early. I'm going home. I'm having a huge Mackey's.
Yeah.
That's kind of a post audition thing I do, is I treat myself with junk food, actually. Probably shouldn't do that, but I do.
Why not?
And yeah, I was like, I'm going home and having a huge Mackey's, and I was just like, I cannot believe I got to my audition a month early. I was so embarrassed when I went outside to check my emails that I didn't go back inside to Pineapple to say to the man, by the way, month early for my audition. I'll see you in April.
He's still waiting. He's still waiting for you.
And then there was another one that Beauty and the Beast kind of interfered with, because I got the call about Beauty and the Beast while I was on the tube on my way to another audition. So I went to this audition kind of all the while secretly knowing, like, I'm not going to be able to do
That's
this.
great that you still went, though, because it's important to get seen, isn't it?
Yeah, and also at that point it was such early days, and with Beauty and the Beast, because it was overseas, it wasn't in the UK, there were things like, visas, background checks, medicals, all of which I was sure I was going to pass. But I was like, just in case anything was to happen, you just want to be safe in case.
What a lovely dilemma to have. Be like, I'm in a job. I've got a job for another year, but I'm gonna audition.
Absolute buses, because the year prior, I like had maybe the worst kind of, I guess, luck with auditions that I'd ever had before. Yeah, it was just like it was just one of those years where it was like very difficult to. It was just one of those years where I just wasn't what people were looking for. So it was so strange to suddenly be like, oh yeah, sorry, can't actually do this job. I've got another job.
Wouldn't that be nice to be in that situation now? Have you ever been shocked that you were called in for a show?
I don't. Oh God, I don't know. There's definitely been shows where I think maybe I'm not the skill set they're looking for, but like I said earlier, I mean, I do just kind of go there and say, this is what I do, this is what I bring. Here I am. See if I fit. Yeah. If I don't, that's fine. So I've been shocked that I've been in for things. Maybe more shocked about when I started going in for things that I've always wanted to be in for, but hadn't been in for since graduating. It took me a good couple of years to get in for like some big shows that I've always wanted to be in. And, that was a little bit of a shock, but a good shock. It was a good thing. Like, oh, this casting director now has enough faith in me to see me for this project, and how lovely. And that's the kind of shock. I've never been in a position of like, oh gosh, I'm in for this show, and like, why are they calling me in? Because I guess that's not my job to criticize their decision. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. Have you ever auditioned for a role and not got it, but still been cast in the show?
It's funny. I wanted to say Stardust for a second, because I think my first round, I read sides for
Delante.
I think I read for Amar, Robbie's character, Amar. Yeah. And I think I read for that for the first audition, but I think they always kind of had Seth in mind for me. And then eventually I kind of obviously did the auditions and then did an extra audition on top of like all the auditions, and then got Seth. But actually, no, there's been auditions when I've maybe gone in and they've recalled me for maybe 2 separate parts. But then over the course of the audition recalls, one of those parts just kind of naturally kind of drops off. They think, oh, maybe he's more suited for this, or maybe someone else came in as like just perfect for this part. I was going to say the name of the part, but I probably shouldn't do that. But yeah, things like that have happened. Yeah. But yeah, it's the same thing. Go in, be you, bring what you bring to the party, and they'll place you where they can place you.
Fab. And have you ever sacrificed something important to be at an audition?
No. But that is actually because when I was younger, when I was about 16 or 17 again, all the things happened when I was a teenage. Teenage me had it rough.
That's the age we need to focus on for the musical. It's that era. Yeah.
But yeah, when I was a teenager, I actually missed my brother's engagement party for a rehearsal. And that was because I was in a show, and the director, she was nice, but she had she had a mean streak to her sometimes.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, I need to take this Saturday off because of my brother's engagement. And I told her weeks in advance. And she said, absolutely not. You can't take it off. We need commitment from everyone. We were actually thinking of giving you a role this year, but we need to know you're committed. We need to see that you want to be here. Spouting off all that, bullshit. But anyway, so...
a little bit manipulative. Yeah. We were going to give you a role, but we're not now. When were you going to tell me that then, Han?
Yeah. Where's my contract? And so she said all of that stuff. And I, as a young teenager who wanted this so badly, really took that to heart. So I discussed with my brother, and I said to him, I was like, would you be okay if I did miss your engagement? And though he was upset, he was like, I understand, there's something you really want to do. And he kind of said, it's fine in a way. And then also, I spoke to my parents. They were like, yeah, but we understand you need to do what you need to do. And this is a big opportunity for you. And whatever. And then I remember the day I went to rehearsals where my entire family went that morning, to my brother's engagement party, and I didn't. And I instead went to rehearsals. And there were people that day who didn't come to rehearsals. There were people that day who had taken that day of rehearsals off.
Oh, how annoying for you.
And also she kind of saw me that day and she was like, oh, it's nice to see you today. Thank you for coming in. That was the only acknowledgement I got for the sacrifice I had made. And she didn't give me a part. She forgot she offered to give me a part, said they don't think there's a part that's right for me. You know, all of this stuff. I was devastated because this was a life event that I had missed, a once in a lifetime I had missed. So that taught me a lot of things. It taught me that no matter how much you love what you do, life comes first. Your life comes first all the time. It also taught me, you know, unless you have something in writing that is signed, you do not put your life on hold for anything. Once your name is on the dotted line, then you can do what you want to do. And I was 17 years old. And if I knew what I knew then, me at 17 would have said, excuse me, where is my contract? Because there was no contract, no deal.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Great advice. And finally, have you ever auditioned for your dream role?
Yeah, many times, many times. Yeah, it's one of the, it's just one of those times where I kind of, I just love what I do so much because I think, you know, one particular musical, I don't know if I should name these musicals at all, but one particular musical that I love, first musical I ever watched in person, I was in for the lead for that. I've been in for that a few times actually, and every time I get to do that material, do the scene, do the song, work with the team, you know, you get a little bit of a chill up your spine, just being like, wow, you know, I'm here and I'm doing this, and it's so lovely to know, you know, not only are you there and doing this, but you've got there from the place you started. Also, for another musical, I auditioned on the stage. It doesn't happen very often, but for this particular musical, I auditioned on the stage. One of them, I've seen that musical once when I was 15, and then rewatched it again 2 days before my audition because I was like, I kind of need a refresher on it. And I was singing on stage, and I kind of looked up while I was singing to where I was sat 2 days prior.
Oh my gosh, how lovely.
I shifted my eyes down to like the dress circle. I looked to where I was sat 10 years prior, and I was like, and now I'm standing here, audition or not. It was just one of those moments.
So before we go, I'd love to have some Aizaac Sidhu advice, please.
Okay.
You've given us some amazing advice so far. I think it's really, really important about saying, you know, your life comes first, but also about the whole audition experience and taking it for what it is. And you are just going into a room and performing to humans. Have you got like a piece of advice that you wish you'd known when you were younger, or something that you could pass on before we go?
A few things. I would say always stand strong in your convictions, always stand strong in what you bring to the table. Always important. I would say find the similarities between you and the character, no matter how different you and a character may be as people with a set of morals. They could be completely different, but find the similarities between you and that character and find yourself in there. Know you've earned the right to be there. Know that it's okay to have fun in the room. Know that that's all right. And yeah, I would say prepare for your audition like an actual performance. You know, a lot of people say auditions are like a mini performance. I kind of thought, oh yeah, that's good advice. But I never really took that to mean what it meant, because never would I ever go into an audition and say, well, I know the words and I know the general emotion, so I can wing the rest. Yeah, that's not the way it is. So when you're auditioning, you're your own director, you're your own musical director, you're your own creative team for that audition. So go in, know what you're going to do with the song, know where you're going to take it, know some blocking. I mean, it never hurts, does it? Bring a polished performance to the audition room, and it just kind of elevates what you're about to do. And also, finally, never take this career for granted. Never take this career for granted at all. So many people fell at the first hurdle and never got up. If you're doing this, you got up. You made it. Enjoy that. No matter how far along in this career you are. If you're auditioning for drama schools, then so many people never make it to that point. If you're auditioning for agents, so many people never make it to that point. If you're auditioning for small theatres, big theatres, West End, World Tour, Broadway, blockbuster movies, so many people never make it to those points.
Yeah.
No fault of their own, but you are lucky enough to be there. Enjoy it. This is the time. You know, I always think like when I'm 80 and I'm looking back on my life, I want to have some good stories to tell. I want to look back at those moments in my life and be proud that I did it. So never take it for granted. Never, never, never.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Thank you for sharing your stories with us today. And I feel very motivated by you. And I also just want to give you a big hug because you've shared some really sensitive moments. And I'm going to imagine burning any unsolicited opinions and take that constructive feedback. So thank you so much.
If someone ever says anything mean, if someone ever says anything mean to you, write it on a piece of paper and burn it. By the way, this disclaimer: I'm not responsible for any fires that may start.
Isaac, please could you sign us off today with just saying the tagline? Thanks. That's all for today.
I'm in the intro, aren't I?
You are. I'll just copy and paste.
I remember when you sent me the request to do the intro, I was like, this is the most acting work I've had in like 2 months because of the pandemic. So I'm going to take this and run with it. I gave you like 4 takes.
Put it on your spotlight.
I gave you takes. I gave you 4 different takes.
I had intentions and all sorts. He was his own director, an own musical director in that moment.
I was, yeah. Musical director. Bit flat on that thanks a bit. Right, here we go. Thanks. That's all for today.
Oh, what a star. Thank you so much. Thank you, Isaac.